Hello, this is David, and this is a video about what to fill raised beds with. It's August here in the Northern Hemisphere, and it's about time to plant cool season vegetable crops. And the question always comes up as to what shall I build the raised beds out of, and then what shall I fill them with, especially when I find out what it might cost to fill them with commercially foraged planting mix from a big box store or a nursery. And I'm not saying this is good or bad, this is just my version of how I've been doing this. And behind me I've got some raised beds. These are made from old deck boards, and they're doing very well. They're about 4 years old now. They might be halfway through their life, but they're still good. What to put in raised beds, and there's all sorts of things online, there's all sorts of advice. A lot of it is good. And if it comes down to what does it cost, you're trying to keep the cost of the raised beds down. Maybe you're using tree rounds or straw bales, IBCs cut in half, whatever you're using, you're trying to keep the cost down. And I know it often comes up, and the question for me is, can I use logs in the raised beds? Well, the answer is yes, you can, and it's a way of filling them. I think the thing to remember is that you're trying to create a growing medium for plants, and if you have root vegetables like carrots, parsnips, turnips, they need a little bit of depth of soil to grow in. So I would say you need 1 foot to 2 feet, ideally, of good growing soil for them. Now, if your raised bed is 3 feet high, I think, yes, fine to put logs in the bottom. You could also put rocks in the bottom. That would be another way to build up. Be another way to keep critters out of the bottom of the raised bed. By that I mean gophers, voles, mice, rats, anything that would tunnel in to get to your crop from underneath. You could put a layer of rock that would be harder for them to dig through. I like to use 1/2 inch hardware cloth, and 1/2 inch seems to work fine for most of these animals. It will break down in time, but at least it's a barrier initially. So there's a couple of things about putting woody material in general, logs, whatever it is, into the raised bed. One would be the fact that if you fill it up with logs, the cost of the soil component goes down, yes, and eventually the logs will break down. So over time, the surface of your raised bed planting area will settle, and that can be tricky if you're trying to do intensive planting and plant one crop into another, so there's continuous planting going on and there's no break, there's no place to top it up. You top it up with a little bit of soil here and there, but that's one thing. That's number one. I think that it's going to go down and you're going to need to add soil at some point. But if we're talking about keeping the cost down in setting this up, then that's one way of doing it. The other thing is nitrogen depletion. The microbes that break down the woody material, the lignin, etc., in the logs or the garden waste, whatever it is, they're going to need nitrogen. And if they're anywhere close to the root zone of your vegetables, then that could be a problem because there's a challenge for nitrogen. Now, you can add organic nitrogen, and that's quite acceptable. Again, we're trying to do this as naturally as possible. So coming down to the question that I started with, what am I going to put in the raised beds? Well, so it could be a layer of rock underneath to build up. It could be some bigger rocks if it's a 3 foot deep planter that you've got. You could probably put some rocks in there and they will fill the space, bring the level up. But remembering that really you're just mimicking a field that's raised up. And you have field conditions, but you're controlling them and you're making it easy access and you have a controlled environment. Well, I would say for me, probably one of topsoil to one of compost works pretty well, finished compost. If you have a more clay soil, then you might want one portion of topsoil, one of compost, and one of sand. And also, sometimes I've used a 75% soil, natural soil, on-site soil, and 25% compost, and that's worked as well. There's so many variables in this, and you can get so confused by getting information about, well, you should have peat moss, you should have vermiculite, you should have perlite, you should add a little bit of this and something else. And yes, that's all good advice. But I'm hoping that you will get started rather than get put off by the cost of filling a raised bed. And I just want to encourage you, if I had to leave you here with your shovel and I said, okay, off you go, I have to leave, you're on your own, there's the rooster confirming that. I would say if you have some decent topsoil that you can put into your raised bed mixed with compost, either your own compost or purchased compost, and then work with that. If you can put your hand in it, if you think that a plant can put down roots in it, then you're probably going to be all right. I would also say that a little caution about putting too much wood chips on the surface. You can put them low down because they help with drainage, but if you put them on the surface, again, they're competing with small seedlings coming through that need nitrogen, and probably better to have a clean, fine tilth on the surface. So I would go with topsoil, with compost, and try it and see. You can make your own adjustments depending on what you're growing and what you need. I'm being beaten by the roosters here. I hope you go ahead, build raised beds, and grow some food. And it's so satisfying, so rewarding on so many levels. And it's very nutritious and just so satisfying to pick a leaf of kale or pull a carrot, something. Anyway, good luck on your journey, and thank you for watching.